A new contender has entered the race for MLB expansion, Jesse, as part of a plan to attract either the Tampa Bay Rays or a possible MLB expansion franchise to the city of Orlando. A group led by Magic co-founder Pat Williams unveiled artist renderings on Tuesday for a proposed baseball stadium that would cost an estimated $1.7 billion to construct. And I will never go to this baseball stadium, Jesse, as long as I live.
You're pretty anti-Orlando.
I hate the city of Orlando more than I hate most places I've been in my life.
Let's look at the renderings. Let's see what we got here.
I don't care. I'll never go.
You went that's
it looks beautiful.
That's amazing.
Yeah. They need a roof because it rains every afternoon at 3 p.m. in Orlando. I don't know if you knew that. Every afternoon. Look at that. It's right in the middle of a swamp. Great. There's probably alligators in that water right there, Jesse. I fucking guarantee it that there's alligators in there.
They proposed this as the Orlando Dreamers, I believe. That would be the team name, which is interesting.
What? Orlando City Baseball Dreamers. I hope that they plan on changing that name. I think that just might be the name of the group itself, because there are other groups that sound like that for the other expansion cities.
That's fair.
In case you forgot, there are several groups now going for expansion in Major League Baseball. Here is a map that we have that just shows where those are located. We have this group joining Salt Lake City's Big League Utah in Salt Lake City, Nashville's Music City Baseball, and the Portland Diamond Project that are all lobbying to join the current 30 Major League Baseball organizations. You also have that little gray dot up there in Montreal. I tried to get that guy in.
We couldn't fit Canada on the map.
Couldn't get Canada on the map. Mexico City is pretty a little south of there as well. That one's also still in the mix. But I mean, honestly, there is some traction here growing. I feel like these groups wouldn't be popping up and putting the money that they're putting into this, estimated, expansion project if there wasn't something that was going to happen, right? Yeah. We know the Oakland A's are moving to Las Vegas, and so
although they've had their drama in the last few days.
Yeah, I know, right? Like that entire situation is getting
looking at other sites now apparently in Las Vegas because the place they originally signed up for is like there's something awry.
They were going to knock down the Tropicana, I believe, where the Tropicana used to be, which is a kind of an icon in Las Vegas. But they just do that now. Las Vegas, all of those old hotels and stuff have all been knocked down and made into new stuff. So
I mean, it makes so much sense that we're talking about bringing another baseball team to Florida because the two that are there are so incredibly successful.
They are absolutely
pack their stadiums every single day. Yeah. Of course, the state of Florida is deserving of another baseball team.
First of all, don't build it on a goddamn island. With only one way to get to the stadium. Right there is a great way to get more people to come out and watch baseball. Also, don't build it in the city where I absolutely don't want to go watch sporting events in. I want to spend all my time on the beach or in a club like I'm going to spend a minute in the Marlins Stadium. And that's no offense to Marlins fans. It's like Las Vegas, right? I have friends now that live in Las Vegas. I understand that there is a city outside of the Strip. And there's very nice people that live there. And honestly, I kind of searched for a similar city in Orlando, and I couldn't find it. It is nothing but TGI Fridays, miniature golf courses, and fucking theme parks and swamps. That's what it is. And long drives in between things. Why is Disney World? Just make the entire town Disney World. Just make the whole city Disney World and get it over with. I will never go watch baseball in Orlando. I don't care for that city one bit. Look, Damon's about to say something, but I'm just going to preface this by saying, as much shit as I talked about Tucson, I had a lovely time there, and I texted Damon that just because of the shit that I talked about Tucson. Tucson has more culture in its pinky than Orlando has in its entire downtown area.
This is true. I was just going to say that I have a friend who also similarly despises Orlando, much like you do, and he says it's the worst city in America.
They stopped serving alcohol at like 10 p.m. I mean, why? And you should let people drink longer there because they deserve it. I hate Orlando so much. And I did go to theme parks there, and I do understand how you can go to Orlando and get a Lyft or an Uber from the airport right to your hotel, and then hotel to theme park, and never have to spend a minute really in the actual city. And if that's the plan, that's the dream. If you're going to Orlando, that's what you want to do. I don't mean to really just discredit this whole city. I know we have people that might be from Orlando in our chat, but I doubt it, because I don't think anybody actually comes from there. I think people just go there to vacation. I'm sorry, I hate that place.
Yeah,
Anyway.
no, I mean, that's something that Pat Williams seems to be well aware of here, is that it needs to be a tourist destination. Like they need to make this ballpark, this facility, this team like so irresistible that all of the people who come to Orlando for Disney World, you know, they like this has to be something that they just have to check off their box. And there's a lot of things that have to happen in order for this to actually become a thing, right?
Yeah.
Number one, Major League Baseball has said repeatedly, the commissioner's office has said repeatedly that they are not going to entertain the idea of expansion until they know what's going on with the A's, which we have some resolution on that front now, and what's going on with the Tampa Bay Rays. Yeah. I could see, I think in my mind, the only way that this works, Derek, is if the Tampa Bay Rays were to just decide to pick up and move to Orlando. Yeah. That actually makes some sense, because as you said before, the Tampa Bay Rays ballpark, if you know the area, if you've been there, or if you just do a quick Google map search, you'll come to recognize very quickly that it's in a miserable location. It's very hard to get to. And even though the Tampa Bay Rays are an absolute juggernaut of a baseball franchise right now, it's really unfortunate. It's really sad for baseball to have a world-class organization, you know, just in this ballpark that, number one, is an ugly ballpark that nobody really wants to go to. And number two, it's just in a location that's really hard for people to get to. So I could maybe see this working out where the Tampa Bay Rays ultimately decide to move to Orlando. And, you know, maybe this gets off the ground that way. Outside of that, are you going to pick Orlando over Nashville for expansion? I don't know. I think it says at some point, I think Pat Williams made a comment that he at least personally thinks that Major League Baseball will look at doing one expansion team west of the Mississippi and one expansion team east of the Mississippi.
Portland, Nashville.
Yeah, Portland and Nashville is kind of what people have been saying for a long time. Salt Lake City has some momentum in recent days. Charlotte is a city that we've seen thrown around, although it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of momentum there. Mexico City is a fun idea, but I've talked with some players about it. The logistics of, you know, pro athletes moving to Mexico City, having their families in Mexico City. I think there are just some obstacles there. It's also very, very far away from, you know, places like Toronto or Boston, which, you know, there would be some very, very long flights that I think people would have a hard time getting around. And then I guess Montreal is the other one that we mentioned earlier that could be in the mix. Not sure I see that happening for a variety of reasons. So it's interesting. I could maybe see it, but I think it would probably have to be the Tampa Bay Rays moving there rather than Major League Baseball adding a third team in Florida. I just don't see that happening.
I agree completely. Last year, Tampa Bay had the second worst attendance in baseball, averaging 13,927 fans per game.
That's so sad.
Actually,
it's such a good base. I mean, last year they weren't quite what they've been this year.
They were ahead of the Marlins, and they were ahead of obviously the Oakland A's. This year, as one of the best teams in baseball, if not, I think they have the best record in baseball, right? Their average is up to 17,000 fans, 17,819 fans per game.
Which is still terrible.
They are 23rd in the majors, just ahead of the Detroit Tigers and Cleveland, and virtually the exact same position as the Chicago White Sox.
Do you have the numbers for last year? Where were the Marlins last year?
13,927. I do not have the Marlins numbers in front of me.
Okay, but the Marlins were worse than the Rays last year?
The Marlins were worse.
So you basically have like two of the five, lowest attendance teams in Florida already. Are you really going to go add another one? I know Orlando probably makes arguably more sense. I mean, it's a huge tourist destination. Maybe Orlando and Miami are somewhat comparable in that, but it just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
11,203 fans is what Miami averaged.
Wow.
11,203. For years, even with how bad Miami has notoriously been, like considered a a bad attendance team. Their average only dropped in 2018 down to like the sub 20,000 level. They always hovered around. They were 18,000, 18,000, 19,000. This is 2009, 10, 11. They went up to 27,400 on average in 2012, and then just stayed around 20 to 21,000, 19 to 21,000 for the most part. And then 2018 came around, huge drop in attendance. 10,000, 13, 2019, 10,000, 16. 2021, obviously, we just don't even worry about that. And
that's what happens when you trade Stan, Ozuna, and Yelich in about a 6-month time period.
Yeah. And I mean, now it's funny because now you talk about that Ozuna trade, and the Cardinals are the ones with egg on their face when it comes to trading Sandy Alcantara and Zach Gallen for Marcell Ozuna, right? So, like, shit changes fast in baseball. But yeah, those attendance numbers, like you said, why do we even have a team in Miami? Why would we do this? Why are we even still doing this? But I imagine that Miami at least is the Florida Marlins, right? And they have 2 World Series in their short history of existing as a franchise. So at least they have that. And that, I think, is always going to make them exist. But I don't know if that's enough to keep teams existing at all.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
the other obstacle for Orlando, as it is for any expansion team, is how you going to fund the new
miniature golf
stadium.
courses. That's the real hurdle for Orlando as a city.
I mean, they need an owner. I don't think that's Pat Williams. I think they would need to find an owner. And Williams made a comment when talking about this with reporters that this is not an industry for millionaires or billionaires. This is an industry for multi-billionaires, right? That's the kind of money that it really takes to get something like this off the ground. They're going to need to find someone like that. And there's also talk of the Dreamers proposal having $700 million coming from private funds and having $1 billion come from a tourist development tax. That would be sort of like a resort tax that would be imposed in the area. So I'm sure those people are used to paying absurd taxes anyway. That kind of comes with the territory when you visit a place like Orlando. But that's a lot of money to be, funded publicly. So there's always a bunch of hoops that you have to jump through there.
And never forget the battle between millions and billions, that 1,000,000 seconds is 12 days and 1 billion seconds is 31 years. Carry that with you forever. If there's nothing else you've learned from this podcast, keep that one. That's the one you should learn.